mentioned here the language issue, and I think many people are not really sure of what type of a society Luxembourg is. You had a pretty special history. You have been an independent state for more than 1,000 years, I believe, or at least almost 1,000 years.
Since 963. Yeah.
You had a Grand Duke that used to be very influential and until recently had far-reaching authority in certain political issues.
Yeah.
How does the Luxembourgian state, how is it structured? How does it look like?
So you mean from the country, like from the language on, how the people think? Or?
Yes. What is, if for example, a Swede would describe his country, he would talk about ABBA, about equality. Luxembourg has its own, it has its own little special traits and character. How does that look like?
So the sad thing is, if you really want to experience real Luxembourg, you have to probably go more to the north, or like to some kind of festival which is very, deeply dependent on Luxembourgish traditions. Other than that, it's going to be very difficult. It becomes more and more like this multicultural kind of nightmare. We have more and more buildings that have like this modernist architecture. It's just awful. You just feel awful in the city. That's my experience. And, our financial institution is also very important. So, Luxembourg is always connected with all banks, whatever. But it is something that we really need. But now talking about the language, if you go to the pharmacy in Luxembourg, or you go to the supermarket, or you go maybe just, to fill up your car, and you don't know French, well, you can have a problem. If you go into a little town, the first, let's say, sign which has the name of the town on it will be most of the times in French, not in Luxembourgish. So there is a very big issue with the disappearance of our language. Now, for the good things of our country, well, we like beer. We make very good wine. We have some traditional, very good farmers' food. And, Luxembourgish people also like those kind of, I think it's taken a little bit from Bavaria, like Oktoberfest-style parties and whatever. So, we love to build like those communities, sing together to folk songs. So that's, Luxembourgish tradition. And we love football.
Mm-hmm. Recently, also, any country in Europe, one of the main issues is Ukraine and the war in Ukraine. And it might seem like Luxembourg is quite far away, being a small country. But if you look at per capita, Luxembourg has actually sent a ton of military aid for Ukraine. Is this a topic that is brought up in the election campaign?
For now, not really. If I'm being honest, this is a decision that has been made. And, of course, there are like different, political views on it. How much? Is that good? What kind of results do we have? We also want to advocate for some transparency, what is done with the military aid that is being sent there. But actually, it's more about, of course, a lot of people, they worry about Ukraine. They worry about the sovereign state. I mean, we can't have peace until, the most important holy right is the right to life. And the other one, Ukraine has to keep the territory. And this makes it very, very difficult. Now, one very big issue that we have is that from the first day on, I think it was on February 26th or 27th, the invasion, something like that? 24th. So the day after, our deputy, Fernand Kartajza, advocated immediately for a diplomatic way to resolve this issue. And since then, he has been demonized by like all the government, by the prime minister. And suddenly, a month ago, a prime minister said, Xavier Bettel, who is from the Democratic Party, well, I will try, to mediate like a peace talk between the Russian and the Ukrainian forces. So this is also something that we don't like because, you see, we've had, I think, a very good approach because Luxembourg has taken a lot of times to hold like a neutral position. And then at the end, we get demonized. And then 6 months or like a year after, well, the government is just like copying our position on it. And we think that, we don't like that.
So in general, it does seem like among people in Luxembourg, support for Ukraine is quite from all sides accepted. The question is just transparency and so on of the military aid being sent. But on the issue itself of Ukraine not giving away territory, that seems to be broad.
Yeah, of course. I mean, it's very difficult because you also had like some referendums in Ukraine and whatever. And now I'm not like the biggest geostrategist, But in Luxembourg, it is a big topic in a sense that we care about these people. And when they come into a country, I mean, we were, I think, also like the first party, maybe I'm mistaken, but because after the invasion, 2 weeks afterwards, we had our National Congress. And we had like a whole list of things. And we also said that we will ignore some of the, let's say, refugee laws for Ukrainian people. And also something that was very surprising is when we took in a lot of, Ukrainian refugees, it was not like in 2015 where suddenly the crime rates spiked. It's all peaceful because we hold the same values.
And it was also a lot of women and children this time.
Exactly.
In 2015, it was a different demographic.
Yeah, and when they're 16, they're 16.
Yeah. Also, if we look at the election campaign now, what are the main issues that are coming up in these final months of the campaign?
So this is always like, it depends from which angle you look at it. If you take a look at mainstream media, it's like climate change. Well, up until beginning August, because now it's raining a lot in Luxembourg, so suddenly that topic doesn't work a lot, that, the planet will burn and stuff. Another very big issue is, of course, the one from security, because, crimes are going up. And our party is the only one always calling out all of that. And we're also saying that we believe that the police minister is kind of closing their eyes, because our minister of education, he knows how many different students we have, which languages they speak, where they go to school, where their parents are from. But when it comes like to criminals, we don't know anything about it. So this is also a very big issue. And a very important issue for us is also the national debt. So the national debt in Luxembourg has increased a lot in the last years. In the last 10 years, our national debt has increased by 200%. And we have like the AAA, which is very, very important for our financial institutions. Now our national debt is, I think, at around 28%. If it goes over 30, we might lose the AAA. All of the other parties are saying, well, it's not a big problem. We think it is a big problem because we don't want to have like this ever expanding government. And one very last thing that I would like to say is how our new constitution has been adopted. I believe we are working on a new version of it because it has not been adopted in a way that all the parties have promised. They have all promised, the government and also the Christian Social Party, that when a new constitution will come into power, that there will be a referendum where the Luxembourgish people will be asked. There was no referendum, and we think they broke the promises, and we think that they lied to the Luxembourgish people, and that's why we believe that most of the Luxembourgish people are actually on our side, because, as we said before, they are deeply conservative, and if you promise something, you have to get, through that.
You mentioned earlier youth criminality and criminality in general. Are there any changes that young people are making in their lives to avoid crime?
So around 2 years ago, the police in Luxembourg, they put out a very big notification, and they said women shouldn't walk alone at night. Can you imagine that the police, says something like that? So this was something where we also, our women from the party, they went to the streets, right? And they were like, this is not possible. So yes, it is beginning to change. We have at our main train station actually no-go zones. We've never had that before. Our main train station in Luxembourg was one of the most, flourishing places in whole of Luxembourg. You had so many shops and stuff. Now there's like drug addicts everywhere, criminals, Nigerian drug gangs. And of course, the people, they feel unsafe. And the youth, they don't really go to the city anymore. They don't go to Luxembourg City anymore to maybe go out and have a drink and to socialize. Like when I went to school, high school, like around 10 years ago, I went like every second or third day to the city to socialize with people. It was all fine. Nowadays, you can't do that. We also have like the problem of like organized beggars in Luxembourg. And they're like everywhere and they're very aggressive and they're going to attack you. I get like attacked maybe once a month by one of them, just jumping into your face, trying to like hold you. And it's in a very actually good place, So yeah, people start changing their mentality. Girls are getting, more money from the parents so they can take a cab when they go home. So they don't really have to take a bus because there have also been a lot of crimes committed in buses by, mainly foreigners. So yeah.
Has this impacted tourism in any way? Is the reputation starting to get worse, so to say? Do people from other countries hear about these crimes and they start staying away, or so far people don't really know about it in other countries?
That's I can't really judge that because when I take a look at the surrounding, especially on the side of Belgium, on the side of France, I don't think that they have a better situation. So, but the funny thing is, there's not that many people around in the evening in Luxembourg anymore. So during the day, you'll see much more. And back like 3 years ago, there were like even in the evening, the whole city was always lighting up, especially during summer. Nowadays, there's much less.
A final question. When it comes to the EU, again, Luxembourg has always been a part of this central core of the EU, like the Netherlands, Belgium, France, Germany. And therefore also you had a lot of politicians from Luxembourg who had top positions in the European Commission and other EU bodies. Do you think that there are any other powers in Luxembourg, apart from your own party, that are more critical of this increased centralization and federalization? For leaders of the Visegrad Group, can they find allies in Luxembourg that can share some of these slightly more critical positions on centralization?
So there are actually, I think, 3 very important, let's say, historical points in Luxembourg. First of all, 2015, we've had a referendum on 3 different topics: on the foreigners' vote, and then on the right to vote when you're like 16, and then I believe in double mandates. I would have to look that up again. And so the government, even the Christian Social Party, they actually advocated more or less for it. And what happened to Luxembourgish people, they decided by 80% against it. Then we had COVID, very big issue also in Luxembourg. We've had a lot of people going to the streets, and suddenly the police, they didn't really know what to do. So they took even like water cannons from Belgium, and they attacked like the people that were peacefully, on the streets exercising their right to strike. So this also has proved to a lot of Luxembourgish people that something has to go on. And then thirdly, now with the new constitution, which has been adopted without really having a referendum, even though it was promised, again, this sparked a lot of skepticism inside the Luxembourgish people. So we see more and more Luxembourgish people who are also very influenced, as you said, by conservative movement outside of Luxembourg. And when they watch like your videos or some other videos from conservative influencers, then they actually start to think, well, there are also other people who think like we do, because Luxembourg is a very, let's say, EU addicted country. But I think that people believe now, well, this is not really heaven. This is not the way we want to go. We want to stay sovereign, because we've seen so many times how our rights have been infringed upon with, the help of the government. And the government in Luxembourg, what they do a lot of times is they don't have their own ideas. So they just look at the European Union and then they just copy it. But I believe that we have, with our party, also a counterculture coming up. And our youth is growing bigger. Our party is growing bigger. We have a very good list of candidates who are from all different sectors. We have bankers, we have lawyers, we have doctors, we have teachers, and so this is something very interesting. But as I said before, COVID was the main point, because we were also the only party advocating for the, freedom. If you want to get injected by that or not, it's up to you to choose. And that's how we also, had a very big wave of supporters coming up. And they're very loyal. And they question whatever the government does. So in that regard, also because I was, traveling a lot, Poland, Hungary, and other countries which have a very conservative government, this has also influenced a lot of people who started looking up, okay, what is this country doing? And they actually really enjoy it and like it, and would also like to see some of those positions being, implemented by Luxembourg.
So we have to wait for October and see what happens in the election, if the population is turning more and more conservative, or whether there will be more EU federalism and globalism in general.
Oh, I hope not.
Well, thank you very much for being with us today, and we hope to see you after the election again.
Of course, thank you.